This is a video about brokers. So obviously when you buy a property with a mortgage, you'll need a broker. I have spoken to some people in the past who go to their personal bank and try to arrange a mortgage through them. I believe they have been successful in some instances. I've never really done this myself personally. It may be a good thing to do because your bank knows your transactional history better than most other people would. But the point of a broker is that this is their job. They specialise in it. Brokers have access to thousands of different lenders and mortgage types. They know the industry in and out, especially the brokers with many years of experience. One of my brokers has 15 more years of experience, the other one has 20 or more years. So within property circles, there's often been an interesting debate as to whether your broker should charge you when they get you a mortgage or not. As brokers have access to so many lenders, different mortgages types, they can optimise this for each client. And those with experience can do this far more effectively than most others. I've used quite a few brokers throughout my property history. Some have charged, others haven't. When a broker gets you a mortgage, the lender pays them commission anyway. So some people think that they should not really pay a broker in addition to the commission that they get from the lender. One of the first brokers I remember speaking to phoned me briefly after 5 p.m, but then kept mentioning that he shouldn't really be speaking to me because it was the end of the working day. That's fair enough, but these sorts of things can stick in your mind, and I don't recall speaking to him again after that. The brokers I use currently have no such restrictions, and it helps the working relationship rather than feeling you're putting someone out. Good brokers know that it's a good mutual arrangement for mortgages to be arranged. I get a mortgage and they get their commission. This is obviously how they make their livelihood. About 6 or 7 years ago, I had a chat with a colleague. My broker at the time did charge me £300 to £500 when arranging a mortgage. My colleague, who also had multiple properties at the time, was very shocked, and she said that I should not be paying my broker. So this sounded a bit strange to me at the time, and then I was in the property groups. Some people said that you should, some people say you shouldn't. Ultimately, it's up to the broker. They can charge if they want. Around then, I started using a different broker. I believe he charged me about £500 for a mortgage, but then another mortgage he charged £300, and then I discussed this issue with him as to whether or not I should be paying him because he gets his commission from the lender anyway, and he sort of jovially said that I'm the boss. So then for a long time after that, I used this broker, and he didn't charge me anything for mortgages or remortgages. It's only one recent mortgage that he's charged me £500 for, and that's because it's a serviced accommodation mortgage, which takes more specialist work and the applications are a bit more extensive. After this broker, I then was advised by a property group to use another company. This company always charged me a fee. They charged me £750 per mortgage. After a few mortgages and remortgages, I asked them whether I could have the rates reduced slightly. They agreed to do them for £500. So by then I'd studied property and I'd had a mentorship, and the advice was sound, and it was such that you pay good people good money. So often you find if you buy cheap, then you buy twice. I was of the mentality that they put in a lot of work. Their organisation, company is very professional. They charge their fee because they feel they deserve their fee. And they did have a very good manner about them, and they were experienced. For example, they knew how to do applications in certain ways based on prior experience, and were able to get me the mortgages and remortgages I needed. Then what I noticed was that even when I was having a product transfer, so sometimes when you remortgage, you don't need to pull out funds, especially in times of economic hardship. The broker can just do a product transfer, which takes minimal work. But I found they were even charging me for this between £300 to £500. I didn't question this, and I kept using them, and it was fair enough, I thought. As I say, the firm were good, they were professional and had a good manner, and they charged their fee. I then just happened to mention this to someone very experienced in property ahead of me in the journey, and he was quite shocked. He asked me to repeat it, and he said he's never even heard of this sort of thing. He'd never heard of anyone being charged for a product transfer. I also noticed with this broker that I had a precarious tax situation at the time, and they were politely trying to distance themselves from the situation and not help me with that. They kept trying to absolve themselves of the situation, which is fair enough, but it seemed that when things went slightly south, they would not help me or didn't want much to do with the situation. They were happy, however, to help remortgage properties that were in my limited company but not in my personal name. So upon hearing this from my highly experienced property investor friend, I then moved to a different broker. I moved back to my prior broker, who happily took me back on as a client, and I only moved to this other firm in the first place because I do recall my previous broker couldn't help me with a personal case. He was happy to relook at my portfolio and take over from it. I've been in a few property groups, and there have been discussions even by very experienced property investors as to whether brokers should charge fees or not. Ultimately, it's up to the broker. Different brokers potentially can have access to different products, although even this is debated. I recently spoke to another broker who explained that all brokers have access to the same products, and some may charge you for the same product that another one may not charge you for. It all depends how the firm works and how it's structured. For example, some brokers have a team working for them, so they have people underneath them who arrange the mortgage and get it for them. And as this multiplies their business, they may charge lower fees as a result to make themselves even more competitive and get even more business. Perhaps that's happening in certain firms. I've had a very senior broker tell me before that no broker should be charging any fee for any kind of product transfer because they're literally just clicking a button on a computer. This seems more in line with what my experienced property investor friend as well. But this is not to say that I'll never pay a broker a fee. As mentioned, each broker is different, they have different rules, and perhaps if you give a certain broker so much business, they may reduce their fee or not charge you a fee. It's ultimately different for everyone. As to whether they all have access to the same or different products, I still am not sure to this day really. But again, in line with the theme of this channel, this is about passive property investing. So I could spend my time researching different brokers, finding who charges what, going through 10, 20, 50 brokers, and then deciding who charges the least. But this is against the intention of growing wealth. It's best to find a broker who's regulated, who you get on with. Whether they charge a fee or not is not the be-all and end-all. It's the service they deliver, and that should always be the priority. For more in-depth kinds of property investments and potentially commercial mortgages and things like that, or more complex cases, brokers can potentially charge more, as they do need to put more time in to do the work. But I haven't really ventured down the commercial route as yet. As mentioned, the serviced accommodation mortgage I'm currently arranging did take a fee. But again, it very much depends on the broker and how they operate. Thanks for listening. See you next time.